What a beautiful day.
Hello and welcome to my review of the SOG Jungle Primitive. This is the next knife in my list of knives to review in 4K. I'm trying to do this every weekend, but if there isn't a knife or tool video on the Sunday, then it will probably be some kind of electronics based review or video game video or something like that. This is the next one on the list. I reviewed this back in December 2012, so a good 5 years ago. It's featured in many of my unboxing videos. It's quite a nice large fixed blade. When I first purchased it, it was £50. Nowadays it's £62.95 or £63. So it's gone up by about £13 or so, which isn't too bad for 5 years. It's made by SOG. They're an American company. You may have heard of them before. They make the Seal Pup, which I have here, which I will be doing a review on at some point. Let's have a look. So when I bought it, £50 seemed like a bargain, and you get a lot of knife for your money. I think in America you guys can pick this up for probably $40 or so, which is very decent. It says the Jungle Primitive there. I'll just talk about the sheath a little bit and then I'll go into the specifications. So it has this button strap to hold the knife securely in place. That's not going to go anywhere. I prefer that to Velcro as well. It's got this, which is Velcro, but this is an excellent little pouch to put anything in there. You could put a torch in there, you could put a backup blade, a multi-tool. Personally, I'd put a Leatherman multi-tool in there. That's great. It's quite a sturdy sheath. It's got this big, nice belt loop, so you can hook it on your belt, no problem. Yeah, as I say, it's quite firm. Sort of sheath. You could definitely use it for egress if you wish to. If we open it up, here's the blade itself. Nice looking blade. I like the black finished. I don't think it's DLC, which is the diamond light coating. I think it is just a paint, you know, that can chip, I suppose, but mine hasn't. It says Jungle Primitive on there. I'm not a huge fan that it, you know, has the name on it. I'd rather it just say SOG and then have Jungle Primitive, you know, on the handle or somewhere else other than the big blade, because it's a really nice, I mean, that way it looks brilliant. So what I'll do is I'll just talk to you about the specifications of the knife. So the overall length is a whopping 15.3 inches or 38.8 centimeters. So it's a pretty long blade. The blade length is 9.5 inches or 24 centimeters. The cutting edge length is 9.2 inches. Or 23 centimeters, and the weight is 14 ounces or 396 grams. So it's definitely a chunky weight, but it's not that heavy for a fixed blade. The blade itself isn't that heavy, and the handle, I believe it is a full tang, and the blade steel goes all the way down to the pommel where there is this egress. It's quite sharp, but you could probably break a window or something with that. It's got this big lanyard hole hoop that you could put 550 in easily. I'm not sure about that, probably a bit smaller for those, but yeah, you could definitely strap it onto something, or strap it onto your hand or your wrist or whatever if you needed to. It's got this again, that seems quite sharp for it to be jimping, but I suppose you could use it. Definitely big enough to wear gloves for this knife. The handle is definitely big enough for that. It's quite comfortable. It's got a bit of a bump there for your fingers to get used to. It's got some jimping on the choil and a little bit there on the pinky choil, and it's got a nice guard. I really like that big rubber guard. There's no chance of your finger slipping and cutting it on there. It's got these serrations here, but I think they're mainly for effect. They're not that sharp. Yeah, they're probably good for cutting rope maybe. But this is the meat of the blade here, this little bit of serrations, and I do like the fact that they've got serrations there rather than on the top or something. That's going to be great for cutting rope or whatever. The blade itself is pretty sharp, definitely usable. It is made in China, but you'll find that with quite a few American companies, that a lot of their sort of knives and stuff are made in China. The handle itself is called a kratom. which is kind of a type of plastic. It's a bit rubbery, but with these little dimples and things, there's a fair bit of grip on there. And like I said, definitely a good knife to use with your gloves. The blade steel is 3CR13, which is obviously quite poor compared to even 8CR13 MOV. But on the hardness Rockwell scale, it's quite soft. It's 51 to 53. So it's not the best blade steel. However, you do get a big chunk of it. The cutting edge length is pretty nice. It's not going to hold that edge for that long, so it's also a good knife to get experience with sharpening. So that's a good thing, I suppose. It's a good little entry level for a fixed blade until you want to move up to like the 150 pound fixed blades, like easy knives and things like that. But there you go, that is the Jungle Primitive. What I'll do now is I'll just show you a few size comparisons. Now this knife here is 130 pounds, so you're paying well over double for this, but it does have the vastly superior VG10 blade steel. It is full tang, which means, you know, the blade goes all the way through the handle. It's got a bit of a pommel, bit of a funky shape, but definitely as usable as like a camping knife, like a little adventure knife, I suppose. But it just doesn't have the serrations. But yeah, you get what you pay for in this case. You know, 50, 60 pound made in China knife, or 130 pound Spyderco with that better blade steel. Yes, it doesn't have the black DLC. I don't know whether they did create one in black DLC. I think they did, but that's just mainly for a size comparison rather than a versus video. You know, you do get a solid piece of VG10 for that though. Another knife that I have is the Zombie War Sword. I think we're going through like a ban at the moment or something of like zombie advertised knives. I don't know why, because zombies don't exist, and yeah, it's just really odd. But I've got one here, which is a K-bar. It's just a K-bar, but with a green handle scale. It's got the American flag on for some reason, and it's got like a biohazard K-bar symbol thing. And this has got a very decent steel too, and this has got a full tang too. Interesting handle because it doesn't really give you a full grip on that area or that area. You sort of have to swap between. I would have liked like a full dedicated handle rather than a little bit of difference, and the reason for that is, for this one, is because of this hoop. That sort of does stop your hand from slipping. I understand that, but it's so sort of top heavy that it'll probably fall out of your hand that way, unless, you know, your hand and your fingers just aren't long enough to keep control of the top end of the blade. So if you're going to hold it this way, you've really got to hold on tight. So yeah, I would have liked to have had a dedicated handle sort of in the middle of the handle there, but you know, you understand where I'm coming from. So yeah, size-wise, this shows you next to the Zombie War Sword. They're very similar in length. Probably the Jungle Primitive is a little bit longer blade, but the Zombie War Sword is longer overall. And then finally, I have another SOG, which is the Seal Pup, which is this one. This does have the DLC coating on it. This is made in Taiwan, so it's better quality too, better steel. And this has a full tang. It goes all the way to the end. It's difficult to see because of the lanyard, but you can put 550 in there too. And this is very decent sort of fixed blade for the money, if a little bit sort of small, I'd say, but that just goes to show you the difference. Really nice blade shape too, and the serrations as well. So that's the Seal Pup. Hope all those size comparisons have helped. And likewise, like the Jungle Primitive, it also comes with a sheath, which has a bit better flexibility in terms of applying it to a pack or whatever, and it has the you know, Velcro tool pouch as well, like the Jungle Primitive does. And in the summary and my information about the value of the knife, you can't overlook this sheath. Typically you'd pay £10 or more for a sheath like this. So with the added feature that you can put a multi-tool in there, it's got this pop fastener. The blade does move around a little bit, only a little bit in there, But I think that's really great that you do get a sheath like this, because a lot of fixed blade knives, you just get the fixed blade itself, you know, in packaging or something like that. So we mustn't overlook the sheath that comes with the knife too. Okay, and in summary, if you can pick one up for, you know, if you're in America for $40 or in the UK for about 50 quid, then it's a good starting fixed blade knife. It doesn't have the world's best blade steel. It depends on your usage, but you are going to have to keep maintaining it and sharpening it and things. But it definitely gives you a lot of presence. It's a good like show knife with the blade shape and the colour of it. There are plenty of videos out there on YouTube. They're probably coming up on the right hand side now in relation to this, where people have abused this knife. They've really gone to town on it and tried to break it and, you know, make it dull. So there are videos out there as well. I can't see any issues with the edge. You can get it very sharp, but just be wary that that edge isn't going to last that long. And I still think it would be classified as a value fixed blade. And for the £50–60 price point, you do get a good bit of knife for your money. And that's pretty much all I wanted to say about the SOG Jungle Primitive. Nice looking blade, not the best blade steel, but it's comfortable, does the job, it's got the pommel, and it's got the serrations too. So unless you wanted to spend a fair bit more, upgrade to the better steel, this is probably going to fulfill your needs sort of short term. Thank you ever so much for joining me today. Thank you for watching. The Emperor Protects.